Bom dia, boa tarde, boa noite, or whatever the case may be. My name is Marcus, and I'm the host of the Black Brazil Today YouTube channel, as well as the blackbraziltoday.com blog, where I analyze Brazil from the perspective of race. So tonight's video, I've been delaying putting this video together for a few days since the story broke. Needless to say, this is like a really hot story in Brazil's political scheme these days. And I was just waiting a few days just to see if more information would come out. And I'm still waiting on that information, so it's clear I'm gonna have to do a follow-up to this story. But in terms of the whole political argument that goes from the left to the right, this is something that everybody's talking about for the last few days. It kind of, I don't know, I guess you could say it kind of shocked me when it first came out. People are already talking about it in Brazil as well as outside of Brazil. So this is a big headline making story. So I got quite a bit of stuff to cover here today. So let me just get directly into the video. Brazil's President Lula fires Minister of Human Rights after accusations of sexual harassment against several women, including the Minister of Racial Equality. Well, if you haven't heard about this story yet, I'm definitely going to get into this today. But before I get into it, definitely like this video, share this video, consider subscribing to the channel, click on the notification bell so that you'll know when I put up new videos. So let me get directly into this video because, again, there's a lot to cover here. So this is a story. For those of you not familiar with a lot of personalities out of Brazil, this is the now former Minister of Human Rights in Brazil, Silvio Almeida. This is President Lula, who's now serving his third term as Brazil's president. And this is the Minister of Racial Equality in Lula's government. Okay, both Anielle Franco and Silvio Almeida they were part of Brazil's government. Again, he was, until a few days ago, the Minister of Human Rights. And Anielle Franco continues to be the Minister of Racial Equality Department in the government. Okay, so as I said, this has been the talk of Brazil for a few days now. These are just some of the headlines. The Silvio Almeida case is a tragedy for all of us. Let me see. The Silvio Almeida case divides the left and the Lula government. The note from the Black movement aggravates the isolation of Silvio Almeida, the political crisis and the impacts on the Movimento Negro and the anti-racist movement in Brazil. The Silvio Almeida and Anielle Franco case. So this is big news. Not only does it contribute to the shots that consistently go back between the left and the right in Brazil, but within the left itself, there's a lot of things being said. You're hearing a lot of people saying that, just support the women who have reportedly been the victims of this harassment on the part of Silvio Almeida. A lot of us are just saying, hey, let's sit back. These are the first shots that's fired. We can't just, assume somebody's guilty without, the investigation going on. Everybody's supposed to be presumed innocent until proven guilty. So that's just, in general, that's the way that I see this. Kind of, like I said, it kind of made my head spin when I saw this. So a lot of stuff that's going on in here, because I've reported on the rise of Black Brazilians in all facets of society of Brazil, particularly in the last 10 to 15 years. And this is just kind of like I don't know, it's a step back, because I'm saying it would be one thing if you had people who are supposed to be at odds politically, but you would think that Silvio Almeida and Anielle Franco would, you assume that they're all together because they're all part of the Black movement. They're all part of the leftist movement. They're all, they're under the Lula government. So like, wow, how does something like this happen? Again, I'm not going to sit here and say who did and who's right and who's wrong. The accusation is wrong. The accusation is right. I wasn't there. I have no idea what actually happened. So I'm staying neutral on this, but I do want to just go through the story because it's a lot to cover. the rise of prominent Black Brazilians. We've seen, a Black the president of a Black president of Brazil's Supreme Court. We've seen Black Brazilians come up. We've seen the recent announcement of Brazil having its first Black billionaire. We've seen more and more Black Brazilians having more shine in the media, even though there's still a long ways to go. So this is kind of like it's kind of sad in some ways. Whatever the outcome is, with the rise that I've seen, the ascension of Black Brazilians, this is just a thorn in the side. It's like, you hate to hear this type of news come out. And again, I'm not assuming anybody is guilty or innocent. I'm just saying the story itself, whether it's true or it's not true, is still sad. A lot of people have talked about the Black women's agenda in Brazil. I'll tell you, since I started my blog back in 2011, it was originally called Black Women of Brazil, because I noted that Black Brazilian women seemed to be extremely organized in the agenda that they had and what some of the rights they were like demanding. It's Black Brazilian women who spurred the movement for Black people to start accepting their natural hair. I think it's been about maybe 9 years since the first Black Women's National March. So Black women have been at the forefront, for many years, with their agenda. And it's naturally assumed that Black women leading these movements will benefit the entire Black community in Brazil. There's been some questions about that as of late. We have to look at the accusations again. What's being said about Silvio Almeida? Silvio Almeida is one of the most prominent Black men in all of Brazil. So these are hard-hitting accusations. Could this be another step in the divisions that's going on between Black men and Black women in Brazil? Because as I've said, there's been a lot of mudslinging over the years. The feminist movement in Brazil were quick to jump on what came out of the English-speaking world, this talk of toxic masculinity. In Brazil, in Portuguese, you'll say masculinidade tóxica. And you hear a lot about that. I saw numerous magazine covers in my stay in Sao Paulo where they were talking about this so-called masculinidade tóxica. I didn't see a whole lot of Black men pushing back on that, even though I remember seeing a lot of white men pushing back on it. There was the accusations on the part of Black women that Black men, stampede over Black women to get the white women, what they call palmitagem, this predilection of Black men to choose white women in long-term relationships and the construction of families. So then this case, again, is just sad to me. Everybody's talking about it. In the English-speaking world, you have people talking about this case. Brazil's human rights minister sacked over harassment allegations, misconduct. And of course, it's going to be in Portuguese. So these are just some of the videos and the headlines that I've seen as of late. I'm still waiting to get more news. But until then, just want to get my subscribers, people who see this video, up to date on what's going on here. So Silvio Almeida is known as one of the most prominent Black men in Brazil. He is one of the leading experts in the country on the topic of race. He heads up the Luiz Gama Institute. And his book, Racismo Estrutural, is considered a reference manual for understanding structural racism in Brazilian society. Almeida has a law degree from one of Brazil's top schools, Mackenzie Presbyterian University, and also holds a degree in philosophy from the country's top university, the University of Sao Paulo. His master's degree is held in the area of political and economic law, and his doctorate is in philosophy and general theory of law. Silvio Almeida, as you'll see, is now written as former Ministry of Human Rights and Citizenship of Brazil. In 2020, he became a visiting professor at Duke University, where he taught courses such as race and law in Latin America and Black Lives Matter, Brazil and the United States. In December of 2022, he became the Minister of Human Rights and Citizenship for President Lula da Silva's third term, a position he held up until recently with this, we can say, scandal. Then we have Anielle Franco. She is a professor, a journalist, and an activist, and a leading figure in Brazil's Workers' Party, or the PT, as it's known, the Partido dos Trabalhadores. She is the founder of the Marielle Franco Institute and serves as Brazil's Minister of Racial Equality. A former volleyball player, Franco lived in the United States for 12 years and attended several colleges and universities on sports scholarships. Franco has attended Novato College in Corsicana, Texas, Louisiana Tech University, North Carolina Central University, and Florida A&M University, the latter two being HBCUs. Through her immersion in these schools, she would become an anti-racist activist and be exposed to the works of African Americans such as Martin Luther King Jr., Malcolm X, and Angela Davis. Anielle was involved in the political career of her sister, Marielle Franco, the Rio de Janeiro city councilor who was murdered in a heinous professional-style assassination in Rio de Janeiro that shocked the world in 2018. Soon after Marielle's murder, Anielle took steps to establish the Marielle Franco Institute, which promotes cultural and educational activities for children. The Institute has carried the work and agendas of Marielle Franco, such as the rights of women, Black people, LGBTQIA+, and Brazilians living in poor communities on the outskirts of major cities. In December of 2022, around the same time as Silvio Almeida, she became the Minister of Racial Equality in Lula da Silva's third term as president of Brazil. So again, today's story, all of the credits I'll give for these stories come out of two major Afro-Brazilian news sites, Notícia Preta and Alma Preta. So Brazil's President Lula da Silva fires Minister of Human Rights Silvio Almeida after accusations of sex harassment against several women, including the Minister of Racial Equality, Anielle Franco. Of course, this is President Lula da Silva. So let's get into the story. On Friday, September 6th, Brazil's President Lula da Silva dismissed the Minister of Human Rights, Silvio Almeida, after he was accused of sex UAL harassment. The president considers it untenable to keep the minister in office, considering the nature of the accusations of sex harassment, says the president's note, which confirmed the dismissal. Another picture of Silvio Almeida. The existence of the denouncements was disclosed on Thursday, September 5th by the Metropolis website and confirmed in a public note by the NGO Me Too Brazil, which combats sexual violence. In the report, it was also pointed out that some denouncements were made but without disclosure of names. But the Minister of Racial Equality, Anielle Franco, was named as one of the alleged victims. Silvio Almeida denies the accusations. Okay, this is Anielle Franco again. The decision was taken after a meeting of the Ethics Committee of the Presidency of the Republic on Friday, according to the Planalto Palace, the residency of the Brazilian president. At the same meeting, the now former minister has received 10 days to present his defense. The federal government reiterates its commitment to human rights and reaffirms that no form of violence against women will be tolerated, the statement added. The federal police has also opened an investigation in relation to the case, but the minister spoke on Thursday night, still denying the accusations. According to him, they are intended to affect his image as a Black man and that they are slanderous. He even requested the investigation of the case when defending himself. Again, Silvio Almeida, the now former Minister of Human Rights. Until the closing of that article, Anielle hadn't spoken on the issue. President Lula spoke for the first time on Friday about the accusations of sex UAL harassment against the Minister of Human Rights, Silvio Almeida. Someone who practices harassment will not remain in government. I just have to have the common sense that we need to allow the right to defense, the presumption of innocence. He has the right to defend himself, Lula said in an interview with Rádio Difusora from the state of Goiás, he said. All right. Lula with Anielle Franco here. Lula reiterated the importance of investigating the case. We'll have to find out correctly, but I think it is not possible to continue in government because the government will not live up to its discourse, the defense of women, including human rights, with someone accused of harassment, he said. The case, according to the president himself, is already the subject between the Attorney General of the Union, Jorge Messias, the Controller General of the Union, Vinicius Marques de Carvalho, and the Minister of Justice, Ricardo Lewandowski, to start conversations on the subject. The federal police will also open an investigation in relation to the case. Until the closing of the first reports, Anielle had made a comment And the names of the alleged victims went to the NGO Me Too Brazil. They were not disclosed. Okay, so regarding the photo that Janja published with Anielle in support of the minister, Lula commented, the reason for a photo of Janja with Anielle is an unequivocal demonstration that women are with women, he said. Janja is Lula da Silva, the president's wife. This is a picture that's been shared probably thousands of times online of her kissing Anielle Franco on the forehead in a gesture of support. The federal government recognizes the seriousness of the complaints. The case is being dealt with vigor and the speed that situations involving possible violence against women require, says the note from the Secretariat of Social Communication of the Presidency of the Republic, Silvio Almeida with the President Lula. Almeida states that the situation, in addition to being slanderous, is a persecution. I confess that it is very sad to go through this. It hurts my soul. Once again, there is a group wanting to erase and diminish our existences, imputing to me conducts that they practice. As a result, Brazil loses, the human rights agenda loses, racial equality loses, and the Brazilian people lose, he said. Several personalities, such as First Lady Janja, journalist, social influencer Renee or Hene Silva, the Movimento Negras Decidem, which means Black Women Decide movement, the Coalizão Negra por Direitos, meaning the Black Coalition for Rights, and working partners of the minister, such as the Ministry of Women, Cida Gonçalves, have demonstrated support for Minister Franco on social networks. The Black Women Decide movement provided solidarity to Anielle, releasing the following statement. We witness and reaffirm that even occupying spaces of power and decision, Black women remain unprotected and victimized by a misogynistic culture that governs Brazilian society, says part of the note. In another note, the accused, Silvio Almeida, stated that the case should be investigated. He said any and all complaints must be investigated with the rigor of the law, but for that, it is necessary that the facts are exposed to be investigated and processed, and not just based on lies without proof. I will forward letters to the Office of the Comptroller General, the Ministry of Justice and Public Security, and the Attorney General's office to make a careful investigation of the case. According to a statement from the NGO, the victims arrived through the organization's service channels and received psychological and legal care. No names or number of cases were disclosed. On Friday night, the 6th, the Minister of Racial Equality, Anielle Franco, published a note on her social networks in a first public announcement or pronouncement after complaints attributing acts of harassment to the now former Minister Silvio Almeida. The statement does not mention the former minister by name and is marked by the defense of the rights of women and girls victims of harassment. The minister has also requested respect for her space and right to privacy and states that she will contribute to the investigations wherever triggered. Anielle Franco stands against attempts to blame, disqualify, embarrass, or pressure victims to speak out in moments of pain and vulnerability, and points out that these actions only fuel the cycle of violence. In the note, there is also a thank you for President Lula's forceful action and the expressions of support and solidarity sent to her. It is not acceptable to relativize or reduce episodes of violence. Recognizing the seriousness of this practice and acting immediately is the correct procedure, the text says. The minister closed the statement stating that she remains firm and confident in the values that move her in her mission to work for a fair and safe Brazil for all people. And just this is the Me Too Brazil movement. Of course, we're familiar with it from the United States. Me Too Brazil has existed for a number of years, but I think this is one of the, if not the, is probably one of the biggest denouncements that's been discussed in public. The allegations erupted in a series of reports over the past few days, attributing allegations of harassment, of sex harassment and moral harassment to the former minister. The texts were published by Mateus Araújo of the UOL website tab, and by the columns of Guilherme Amado of Metrópolis website and news, and Mônica Bergamo of the Folha de São Paulo newspaper. The Metrópolis publication cites complaints from several women from the NGO Me Too Brazil and also from Minister Anielle Franco. Earlier, researcher Isabel Rodriguez also recorded a video accusing the former minister of harassment. The possible resignation of the then minister reverberated throughout Friday as an unprecedented political crisis in Lula's current term. The dimension of the crisis is due to Almeida's prominent role as an intellectual figure of the Black movement and due to his ideological proximity to the government. A photo of Silvio Almeida with Anielle Franco, obviously in better times. The note announcing the resignation points out that the federal police opened an investigation protocol on the case and that the Public Ethics Commission and the Presidency of the Republic opened a preliminary procedure to clarify the facts. The Black Women Decide movement, which works to promote the presence of women in politics, stated that there is no new fact here. We know that the political space was never formatted for women to occupy it. Headline from CNN: Brazil's Lula fires human rights minister accused of sex misconduct. Their work, carried out with great commitment, political skill, and technical quality, should not be eclipsed by regrettable episodes like this, said the movement, referring to the Minister of Racial Equality. The Black Coalition for Rights also expressed repudiation of the possibility of Minister Anielle having been a victim of sex harassment by Minister Silvio G. Almeida. Says here, Anielle Franco will meet with Lula to deal with the Silvio Almeida case. We affirm our stance of absolute repudiation in the face of any form of violence, especially against Brazilian women. This principle for us is historically non-negotiable, the coalition said. In a press release, the NGO Me Too Brazil highlighted the complaints were made through the service channels, and the victims, who according to this NGO are 14, receive psychological and legal support. According to the NGO Me Too Brazil, reports of sex harassment against Silvio Almeida were made by women. Victims requested anonymity and reported difficulties in validating their reports. In addition, the episodes allegedly occurred last year. According to information released by columnist Monica Bergamo of the newspaper Folha de São Paulo, President Lula plans to meet individually with the Minister of Human Rights and Citizenship, Silvio Almeida, and the Minister of Racial Equality, Anielle Franco, to discuss allegations of sexual harassment involving Almeida. Almeida relates the accusations to his identity as a Black man in a prominent position and called for a rigorous investigation based on real facts. In the video, the politician denounces a campaign to defame him and silence his voice. Wow, so much going on here. I can't even, pass judgment on this case because it's still too soon. There's been a lot of people pushing back from both sides. From what I've seen, the left is completely more supporting Anielle Franco and the other alleged victims. It seems, and this is what one of the headlines was saying, it was just like, since this story has broken, it seems like that Silvio Almeida is feeling a form of isolation. This guy was like a rock star on the left. I mean, he gives a lot of speeches on racial equality, inequalities. He talks about structural racism in the country. He was a very leading voice, a very influential figure on the left in advocating for the rights of Black Brazilians. And so for something like this to happen, it is kind of shocking. So, we've heard the discourse for a long time that, just believe all women. And I'm saying that sounds like a good slogan and all, but we know also, whether we're talking in the US or Brazil, we've seen numerous cases of people believing something that a woman said only to find out that she wasn't actually telling the truth. So for this reason, I have to stay neutral on this case. The accusations are the accusations. And if they're actually true, let the due process go through. If Silvio Almeida is actually guilty of what they're saying he did, then he should be punished for that. But on the other hand, we can't jump to conclusions and just, destroy the man's name when he hasn't been convicted of a crime yet. I mean, it's a lose-lose situation for him, because the point is, if it actually turns out that this is his website, his organization, the Luiz Gama Institute, says they have information that they want to share that says this is one big conspiracy. So I'm going to be paying attention to this for a minute, but the problem that I have with this whole case, and I understand he's being accused of something. So how can you function under a government when you have somebody in the government that has such an accusation? But at the same time, if it turns out he's not guilty of these claims, then his name has been destroyed, his reputation has been destroyed, and he lost a prominent role in the Brazilian government. So this is what I'm saying. I can't really give a firm, opinion on this. I have to sit in the middle and just wait for the facts to come out. The one thing that I do see as a problem here is that, the sociologist and Henrique Hestier, he's been one of the few Black men who've been speaking about some of these things, where he's noticing that the Department of Racial Equality in Brazil, it seems to be a department that's totally just advocating for the rights and the advance and progress of Black women. And his question is, where are the policies for Black men? Sociologist says government Department of Racial Equality focuses only on Black women, ignoring the plight of Black men. And as in past stories that I've written and I've done on video, it depends on how you look at it, whether you want to say who's more victimized in Brazil between Black men and Black women. It depends on how you look at it, because in some ways you look, it seems like Black women. In other ways you look and it seems like Black men. The point is, policies for both groups need to be advanced in order that, Black men and women are able to advance in Brazilian society. This is another piece that what is it? Henrique Hestier did a piece called "The Black Man and the Myth of Male Privilege," where he analyzed a lot of facts and a lot of data, and he says, well, how can we really say that Black men have some type of, male privilege? So this wasn't an article by Henrique Hestier. It was actually by Paulo Gonzaga, but he was just pointing out some of the facts that a lot of people representing men have said over the years. When you look at the data, the fact that Black men go to jail at a higher proportion than other people in society, that Black men are being killed at a higher rate than any other group in society. When you look at the type of labor that men are expected to perform, and people are just asking, women tend to go to universities more often, come out with more degrees than Black men. Black men are always harassed by the police, if not killed. And we have to look at that. This is not, in Olympics for, people being victims, but it's something that we have to consider. And so what I'm afraid of is that, looking with the growth of the ascension of Black Brazilians, it's just, to me, it looks like a coming division. There's been finger pointing on both sides, Black men at Black women and Black women at Black men over the years. And I don't know, but this case looks like it has the possibility of creating a bigger division between Black men and Black women. And that's the last thing that, the Black population in Brazil needs. I've said this in numerous videos in terms of romantic relationships and unity. Black men and Black Brazilian men and women need to be able to heal the divisions that are already existing. So I'm going to have to just sit back and wait and see what happens with this case. I would like to hear that, Silvio Almeida is found innocent of all of the charges, but obviously I can't call him innocent or victim at this time. I'll just have to wait for more information to come out. But curious to know what you all have to say about this. Please drop a comment in the comment section if you're already familiar with this case, particularly if you're basing what you know on just what I just read there. Drop a comment about that. I mean, none of us can make a call on what's really going on here. Just have to wait for more news to come out. Definitely consider subscribing to the channel and clicking on the notification bell when I put up another story. Definitely going to have to do probably a couple follow-ups on this story as more news is released. With that said, I'm going to end this video here and request that you all come back. Check out the next video that I post on Black Brazil Today.